Yeah, I've heard this from multiple sources that that thought process is when the kingdom comes that they're going to wage war against it, but make it look like it's an alien invasion.
Super Canon Plus.
I heard a story. Matter of fact, it was the rest of the story. I know you're familiar with that a little bit, Joe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, I was just doom scrolling the other day, and this is a true story, supposedly, right? This is the rest of the story that's according.
You're not building my confidence up here when you follow it up with supposedly,
Well,
true,
I mean,
kinda.
yeah, I'll let you hear the story. But
allegedly,
according to the guy that said the rest of the story, this
the
is a
rest
true story.
of the story.
So during Civil War, this is the best basis of the story or whatever. I'm not going to tell it like he told it, obviously. During the Civil War, there was a shot that was fired, and there was like, I don't know, somebody who was in the area heard a woman scream, and he runs to her aid. He runs over there, and there's this woman screaming, crying that her daughter had been shot from like a stray bullet or whatever. And the 17-year-old daughter was shot in the abdomen. Well, this gets wild, man. This gets really wild. So she was shot in the abdomen. He patches her up best he can or whatever. And he's like, I'll come back and check on you, that kind of thing. So he leaves, goes back to the battlefield doing his thing. And it takes her a little while to heal, but he continuously checks on her. Well, the person that he immediately goes and checks on after taking care of her is a man that had gotten shot in a very interesting place, we'll just say. A man-only place, if you know what I mean. Okay?
The beard, got it.
Yeah. So, I've seen some women with beards before.
Easy.
Yeah. So anyway, he goes back months later, the guy does, to check on this gal that had been shot, and she's healing quite nicely. And not only is she healing quite nicely, she's pregnant. So what they find out is the man that got shot, the bullet went through him into her and impregnated her. Hold on, the story gets better. I'm just telling you the rest of the story, and it's supposedly true. So
if I get somebody pregnant, that's my excuse. It was a bullet. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Shots were fired. Things happened.
Right. So anyway, the guy finds this to be like the most incredible thing ever. So he introduces the two of them that were shot, that shared the same bullet, if you will. By the way, the bullet was never removed. That's important for the rest of the story. So the bullet was never removed. It was just kind of patched up or whatever, right? Well, he thought it was really interesting, so he introduced the two people that got shot. Well, as it would happen, they fell in love and got married, and not only raised that child, but had two more children afterwards. So happily ever after in that situation. However, this is the crazy thing. When that first child was born, after a few months, the baby had some kind of like abscess. Something was like, whatever. They did a little surgery on the child, and they removed the bullet. So I'm gonna let the interwebs do y'all do y'all's thing and see if you can find any truth to that. But supposedly, this is a true story, and the way he ended it was, it's never happened before and will never happen again. So,
wow.
But yeah, so and the girl was a virgin when that happened too. So interesting, right?
Mm-hmm. So did they name the kids Smith, Wesson, and
I don't know, but I heard that and I was like, either that is some serious creativity in the imagination, or that's That's a wild
So this
story.
was a Paul Harvey story then,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it wasn't an AI Paul Harvey.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
That's a
That's a very far-fetched story, man, for something
that's
like that
Wow.
to
that's a reach.
survive.
I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to look that up now.
Well,
Yeah.
and then the fact that they had more kids after that means whatever happened to his section wasn't enough
Yeah.
to
Whatever happened to his beard
You
didn't,
you
yeah.
you
and,
you, you only need one half of your beard. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, them bullets used to be balls back then. No pun
Yeah.
intended. You know what I'm saying? They put it in a musket.
You went there.
Well, I mean, they had the whole thing where you had to put the powder in there and all that.
They
So
they
Yeah,
had
we call
they
that a
had
musket.
they had bullet-shaped bullets also. They didn't have just
I'm
round
saying they
balls.
weren't small. That's all I'm getting at. It wasn't a 22 coming out of there.
They had none of them were small. That's correct, but there were smaller ones. That's for sure. I gotta look this up now. So I don't know, man. I think that's hilarious. I think that's
That's an awesome
crazy.
story, though. I wonder if there's any okay, even in the hypothetical world, like, is that even a possibility? Like, can
Well,
the male seed travel through the air while on a heated bullet into a body, and then that bullet not go exactly where it needs to go, but then like how much it takes time and effort to make babies happen, and then now you're like whatever little remnant of something from him flew through the air, made it, survived long enough to that's a lot of science behind that.
yeah.
So
And then for the baby to absorb it somewhere along the way.
right, just kind of grow around it or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this absolutely was a story from Paul Harvey.
Okay.
Um, I won't read the whole thing because it basically breaks down exactly what I just said. But it says it's a captivating, often retold story from his radio show, highlighting fate and unusual circumstances, but its historical accuracy remains debated.
I'm on the debate side.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds a little illogical, not really.
What were the
Oh,
bullets made of back then? Was it steel or lead?
Those are
they were
lead.
lead.
So that's another reason why I'm like, lead's kind of poisonous to the human body, and especially to like a baby. So I don't even know, like, like you
Well,
have lead poisoning, you're literally got lead in you, and you're like, 5 pounds.
yeah, but I mean,
Well,
there's people walking around today with bullets in them, and it's
my mom still has a bullet in her where she was shot. It's in her liver still.
there you go.
Yeah.
It's not like it's like in your bloodstream. It's in a solid state, and
But I mean,
Not
like, but
only
it
that,
was
but
the baby though.
I
That's the
think
part
when
where
your body encapsulates something like that, it probably there's a protective layer around it. Possibly, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I just play one on television. So yeah.
um, the story's uniqueness lies in its highly improbable but medically fascinating premise of conception via a bullet.
Not only that, but it means that and it wasn't like the range on these guns were that far, so it meant that the guy had to have been in close proximity to this woman for all this to happen.
right.
And what kind of angle was happening here for
Hey,
it to hit him in the beard and still make it to,
Exactly.
someone's wombs? I don't know. It's
And not losing any of the trajectory,
right.
the
well,
inertia.
the other thing, the only other thing that makes me still go maybe is the fact that because I mean I don't have any historical documentation for this, right? And apparently neither does Google, but um, it says it lays out that Paul Harvey was known for showcasing his knack for incredible true life anecdotes. So he was known for
Yeah.
telling incredible stories, but that were true. So I don't know. I just think it's wild. I had to share that with y'all. So
Yeah, I definitely never heard anything like that. Joe, you're on mute.
Yep. I said we need more Paul Harveys in the world.
yeah, we do.
We do, man. Paul Harvey was cool because a lot of times when he would tell a story, I would try to figure it out before he got to the punchline of it or got to what he was saying. Because he told one story one time, and he's building. He has a great build up to the story, and he was talking about I don't know what time period it was, but it's back in the day, um, when the mortality rate of women during giving childbirth.
Oh yeah.
And before he finished, I was working in an office and I looked over at the lady I was working with. I said, "I bet it's washing hands." And she's like, "No, I can't be that." And then Paul Harvey goes, "They realized that women were delivering babies, and this is back before they would really wash up and glove up and
Mhm.
all that stuff. And they found out the women were getting infections, and there was a high mortality rate when they were giving birth. And that as soon as they started actually scrubbing their hands and cleaning up before the woman gave birth, that the mortality rate of the woman went almost to nothing.
Mm.
So it all had to do with the germs that they were presenting
Yeah.
at that time. And it was like, but I remember I was like, I got that one.
A mechanic might wipe his hands off between jobs, but he don't wash his hands until the day is done usually, you know what I mean? Or maybe
Right.
lunchtime. But, yeah, that's a little bit different. You don't just go from one to the next, you know?
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was that, and then I know they also were talking about they used to wash in like a basin, so
Right.
they would, then
Yeah. You
you're
just, yeah.
cross contaminating. Even in the washing process, you're just not getting any better. So they were like, no, it has to
Right.
be running water with soap, and then you have to wash. That's why they wash like almost halfway up their forearm because you're gonna get some contact or whatever. So yeah, I love that. And then they went back and were like, well, the Bible's been telling people to wash hands and use living water forever and how to make soap. They were like, if we
Imagine
just
that.
read the book and did what it said, we probably would have avoided all these situations we've had to go through, all these parasites from animals and
Right.
things like that.
Yeah.
Imagine that Bible being true.
Yeah. Well,
Speaking of a story that you may or may not believe to be true, have you heard of Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch? Through I think it's in the book of Acts.
yeah.
Well,
Once
I
or
mean,
twice.
I've heard it.
All right,
Where
so
you going?
so the common consensus, or what you might hear in your average church scenario, is Philip, one of the apostles, disciple. He's having a good old day. He's just on a journey from here to there. I don't think it tells you where he's going or where he was coming from, but he's on the way, and
Over yonder.
yeah, exactly. And he
It's all
finds
on
a
the
guy,
way.
and he's like, on the way. He finds a guy reading the Bible, and he's like, "Hey, help me understand this stuff." He's like, "All right, what do you want to know?" And they go through this whole process, and it's interesting to see anyway. How do you know he was Ethiopian? Like where I know this is what Luke writing secondhand after the fact by getting testimonials from everybody else. So
Right.
what I want to know is who found out he was a eunuch, but that's beside the point. Could have just been a guy
Maybe
with
that's
a,
just the way he introduced himself. Hi, I'm so and so the eunuch.
or maybe it
Well,
was
I
Can you help teach me some Bible?
didn't a lot of the eunuchs have like specific like jewelry or something whether it be an
probably, yeah.
earring or something like that
Yeah.
basically identified them.
Well, I
Either
think he
that
was the
or,
guy from the story from earlier with Paul Harvey, so that's what caused him to be a eunuch.
Okay.
or maybe he talked like this the whole time. Hi.
Yeah, he didn't have a beard. All right, so
Yeah.
so he's down there and he's talking to Philip and he's like, "All right, hey, what do I need to do?" And he's like, "You need to get baptized." And he's like, "All right, well, where do we do that?" And he's like, "Well, there's some water right there. Why don't we go ahead and get baptized real quick?" He's like, "All right, let's go." So Philip, being the godly man he is like, "Let's make it happen." Splash dunk, right? Because baptism means immersion, not sprinkling or anything else weird like that. So
Mhm.
under the water, immersed. And then it says, when the eunuch got up from the water, Philip was gone. He could not be found anymore. So the modern teaching or the average teaching is that Philip was teleported or he was phased or he was beamed up. Fill in the word of your science fiction word of how you go from one place to another place really fast without walking or doing anything, or
Mhm.
God did the Thanos snap and he dusted somewhere else, right?
Right.
So what are you guys' opinion on that? Like, I know the Bible has to be true because it's been vetted and it's the word of God and all that. It's inspired. What happened to Philip? How did he break science fiction rules back in Bible days?
Well, what does it say? Does it say that he just wasn't there? Or does it say he wasn't there and he was somewhere else immediately?
Man,
All
we
right,
got
so
some Enoch language going on here, and then he wasn't.
right. All right, so I'll read you the verse. It's Acts chapter 8. It starts in verse 38. It says, "And he commanded the chariot to stop, and they both went down into the water, Philip and the eunuch, and he baptized them. And when they came up out of the water, the Spirit of the Lord carried Philip away, and the eunuch saw him no more, and he went on his way rejoicing. But Philip found himself in Azotus as he passed through and preached the gospel to all the towns until he came to Caesarea." So, Spirit of the
Well,
Lord carried him away. Carry on, my wayward son.
I think that this is I think this is an example of one of those things that angels have the ability to do. It's almost like a snatching away, if you will, or caught away, or harpazo, or rapture type scenario in my mind. It's we're just going to move you from here to here, you know. I mean, what are we in comparison to God? Right? What are we in comparison to an angel? Right? We read these stories biblically about one angel taking out thousands of men in a single night, right?
Mhm.
I don't know. I try to relate in the physical sense the way I relate to other creatures around me. Like, even if an ant had a mind capable of thought and logic and reason and all that kind of good stuff, right? Can you place yourself in the mind of that ant and have a human walk next to you? It would be unbelievable. You know, conception is just, you know, being able to understand what is happening is unreal. And it might take an all-day event for an ant to walk from this side of the yard to this side of the yard.
Mm.
However, I could make that happen like that, you know, you know, done. So I don't know. I just kind of think of it in that sense, like just from a physical standpoint, it would be that easy.
Mhm.
So I don't see it outside of the possibility of what could happen. We know that the spiritual realm is alive and well, and yeah.
So that's your final answer?
Sure,
So,
sure. I mean, I might have a few other words, but I've rambled on too much.
yeah, I wouldn't personally have an issue with him being literally transported in the supernatural. I did a little quick search on this one. It says in some translations, I guess it will use the word, when the KJV, it says, and the Lord caught away Philip. The Spirit of the Lord caught away Philip. So it says caught away. The Greek word used here is harpazo, means to snatch, seize, or carry off suddenly. It is the same word used in First Thessalonians. It says supernatural relocation. Philip was instantly taken, excuse me, from the baptism site near Gaza and appeared at Azotus, about 20 to 30 miles away. Some parallel examples of this is Elijah was carried by the Spirit from one place to another in 1 Kings 18:12, 2 Kings 2:16, and Ezekiel experienced similar spirit-led transport in visions, Ezekiel 8:3. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll give you my version of that. So this is one like I loved. Oh, go ahead.
Real quick, one
Yeah,
quick
jump in there.
So a lot of people think of the rapture idea, this catching away or whatever. Anytime that word is used, like everyone's thought immediately goes to some kind like that, whether it's pre-tribulation, you know, pre-wrath, whatever. That's where
Right.
people's mind goes to is end time stuff when they hear that word rapture or harpazo. But the Greek word harpazo is used 13 or 14 times in the New Testament alone. So that's pretty
Yeah,
pretty
the
interesting.
whole rapture thing is actually when I was telling you about First Thessalonians 4 is 4:17 is usually what people go to that for the rapture of believers.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a thought. And it's also where people are getting the idea of this like second Exodus type idea, you know, that kind
Right.
of thing. So anyway, all right, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead and sorry. That's crazy. All right. So whenever I was reading through this, so like one of my favorite things to do is so if you guys don't know, I went to Liberty, it's like Bible school, but I didn't go, I went for business. But while I was there, you're at church 3 times a week during the week, and then Saturday, Sunday service, and then you got Wednesday service. So I'm 4 or 5 times a week. I'm in some kind of church, plus my own study, plus we had dorm stuff. So we're always, well, what about this? What about that? When Jesus was in the garden, was that real blood coming out of his face, or was it just really big sweat drops? Like these kind of questions of like, how many days was Noah on the ark? You're like, oh, 40 days, 40 nights. You're like, wrong answer. It was definitely like 300 plus days. But our brains have told us the Sunday school answer, and that's all we know. We're like, I don't know, boat with animals. How many animals? 2. I don't know, something. And you're like, go back and read the story, and there's 7. They're on the boat forever. So This was one of those stories that always popped up, and they're like, yeah, did you know that Star Wars and all this stuff got their inspiration from the Bible, and that people can teleport in the Bible and all this stuff? I was like, what? Because like that's not a story you're expecting. You're expecting somebody to be like, wearing a linen cloak and a sword and chopping down a giant, not getting teleported. You know what I mean? That's not a
Right.
typical
Did
thing
you
that
mean
happens.
Star Trek and not Star Wars?
All the above. That's fine.
Yeah.
Don't judge me.
Well,
So,
well, you might hurt some people's feelings out there.
no, the
Star
holograph.
Trek.
like he got holographed somewhere else. I don't know. It's fine.
No, in Star Trek they actually literally beamed you places.
Yeah. Mace Windu. So, is it Windu? Whatever. It's all good. All right. So,
oh boy.
Whenever he did have the, never mind. Let's be nice. So this was one of the stories that always intrigued me. So, okay, is there teleportation in the Bible? So the way that I read it, I've always kind of looked at it, and I kind of went back and reread it like 9,000 times. And it says when they came up out of the water, so it implies that they were both there and they both came up. So that's a simultaneous event. And then when they came out of the water, the Spirit carried Philip away, and then so the eunuch saw him no more. In the way I read it, and I can see how you can quickly go, yep, see, he was there, then he wasn't, and then he didn't see him. But also, the same story could be, hey, we both came out of the water, washed my, got the water out of my hair, and I started walking, and I never saw him again. I saw him no more, right?
Sure.
Like if you meet somebody and you never see him again, I saw them no more.
Yep.
And the Spirit carrying him away could be, we talk about that all the time. Like, we need to be Spirit led. If the Spirit tells you to go feed somebody, then you go do it. The Spirit doesn't literally teleport you over there. It's just, that push or that feeling of like, I should go do this, or right. I'm going to be equipped to go. Like with Abraham, he didn't get teleported to Israel. He had to go walk that whole way, but the Spirit carried him that direction, kind of pointed in the right direction. He didn't end up in Russia. Sure. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the way that I've always read that is, yes, it sounds like it could turn into something cool and fanciful, but I think it's probably way more simple. And I think so many more stories in the Bible that we've given, like these like larger than life stories, tend to be a lot more on the logical side, and God uses just the natural elements of things around. Like whenever he's doing some of the miracles, it's just like, oh, I brought flies. Yeah, because there's flies already here. He didn't bring down, like heavenly flies that were covered in spikes and anthrax. He was just like, no, just regular flies from over there. They all flew to you, and then this stinks for you now. So my opinion is they got a baptism, they high-fived, good job, hey, good job with life. I'm going to leave. You go do about your business. You're not going to see me anymore. And then the Spirit's telling me to keep going down the road that direction, 30 miles away.
Read it one more time for me, if you will.
I will read it one more time.
If you will.
And when they came up out of the water.
Back up.
Go further up?
Yeah, back up a little bit.
Okay.
That.
And he commanded the chariot to stop, and they both went down into the water, Philip and the eunuch, and he baptized him. And when they came up out of the water, the Spirit of the Lord carried Philip away, and the eunuch saw him no more and went on his way rejoicing.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't say that, he saw him no more and was just amazed by the fact that he just disappeared or anything like that. Right. Like that would be a pretty interesting fact, right? Like, right. And he was blown away at the miracle that God had,
and told everybody, God can make people teleport.
Right.
And there's no writings in Ethiopia about teleporting humans, and
right.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to that as being a possibility or something that God can do.
Exactly. Is it possible? Yes.
Sure. I just don't. I don't see that as something that specifically states that is exactly what happened. I think what you're leaning towards is more probable, more likely, right? So,
because I went back and read a bunch of stories that are very similar in like the Lord led or the Lord pushed or the Spirit, instructed, and it's always like, stop what you're doing and go do something different. We do have a couple stories with Enoch and Elijah and stuff like that where we're like, we don't really understand what is happening because it doesn't.
Right.
Because we know that it's a point, those stories are, oh, well, they died, right? Or God took them into heaven. So then you're like, oh, well, if they went into heaven, then they beat Jesus to the resurrection. You know what I mean? Like, that's interesting because he says he was the only one who's descended is the one who ascended. So there's only one human being that's in heaven right now. So they didn't go to heaven.
He went to the garden.
Yeah.
So they did something.
So you do have the, when Elijah left, you have the chariot and all that stuff, and how he was caught up and taken away and stuff like that. So I don't know.
Yeah. And a lot of
Yeah.
those caught ups are like in the spirit, like when John the Revelator, he says, he was caught up into this, and then Enoch was like, he in the spirit I saw the heavens. In the spirit I was able to see the storehouses laden with snow and all that. Like I don't think his
Well,
human body literally went into heaven and saw
so
the
what went
burning
to heaven?
wheels. Was that?
What went to heaven?
But this one thing is like because I think the firmament is limited by like our flesh. I think that the
Right.
flesh can't enter the heaven. So it was like because it says in the spirit he was caught up. So whatever
Right.
his mental spirit thing is left.
So
But
are we thinking astral projection here at all, where the Father literally could take your spirit and bring it?
I mean,
and
that's what happened to
reveal things
Samuel
to you?
when he was in
not
Enoch. I mean,
it's not an astral projection.
Huh?
I would be very careful about that specific term, the astral projection.
Well, I know that there's people out there who do that.
But
But
you know what? The enemy's not going to do anything. The enemy's not going to allow someone to be able to do something that the Father hasn't already created to be able to be used in some way, shape, form, or fashion. He just twists and manipulates and make things wicked, turns things for good into bad and things like that, right? So the enemy can only use what God has already created and made possible.
Right.
So with that said, I don't know. I just have a problem with using that specific term because we definitely don't. Definitely don't want somebody thinking, "Oh, we can do that now." Yeah, no.
You're using it conceptually,
right?
Yeah,
right. But the reason why I bring it up is because if the Father is the one doing it to draw your spirit to take you somewhere else, I mean, doesn't Paul even speak about that?
Mm-hmm.
Being taken to the third heaven,
Right.
whether he says whether in the flesh or in the spirit. So anything that's in his realm that he's controlling, I'm cool with that. I just use that as a thought process of people. The reason why I was going there is people do that. They will actually astral project themselves, and I know that's used a lot in witchcraft. People who are high level or understand how to do that. But
I can
in no way,
tell
shape,
you,
or form am I saying the Father is astral projecting us, but I'm saying it seems to be something very similar where, like you said, the enemy will take something
right?
that's already a possibility and say, hey, you know what? You could do that yourself. And then all of a sudden, you open yourself up to be hurt really bad.
Yes.
Right. Yeah,
yes.
and you think of like, was it Samuel when Saul tried to call him up, and he was like somehow something that either looked like Samuel or that was Samuel came up out of Sheol,
Yeah.
and that was in the spirit. It wasn't his physical flesh,
Right.
So there's some weird stuff that's like your spirit person is different than your physical and can do some stuff if God allows, but otherwise you can't, So it just makes me wonder sometimes. Like we read stuff and we think like, because we've grown up in the science fiction age where people can fly, Superman and the teleporting and deatomization, all that stuff, where like somebody reading the Bible 500 years ago would never have had that idea. They would be like, people don't teleport, right? So that would have never even been an option. So I wonder how they would have read that, for the 1,000 years before us, they would have never came to our same conclusion, in my opinion. So then maybe we're the ones kind of adding to the story because of what we now think is possible, where they were like in a castle with eating bread.
Well, I mean, we grew up in that, but I mean, somebody at some point come up with that idea, right? So, when that could have come up, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, and then if you think about all the stuff that happened back with like the Vedas and all that stuff, right? All the Indian gods and all that.
Oh, yeah.
And they supposedly had these crafts, and potentially the Egyptians had crafts, potentially that sort of thing, and they were able to travel and manipulate. I mean, almost instantaneously, and then we have these aliens, right? That are that was a pretty good one. I wish I had the hair for that one.
It wasn't bad.
That our military is chasing down, right? We discussed that one time about they shot at one and the rocket split in two and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, are those angelic beings? Is that some kind of technology that the fallen angels have handed down to mankind? What is that, right? But they can move in any direction like that, whatever it may be. So I don't know.
I mean, then we got the
that
story.
Could be seen as teleporting, I guess.
What do you think about the story of Yeshua about him just showing up inside the room with the boys, but the doors were shut and locked.
Right.
I mean, and to see John 20:19 says that same day at evening, being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut, uh, where the disciples were assembled for the fear of the Jews, came Yeshua and stood in the midst and said unto them, Peace be unto you. In John 20:26, it says, After 8 days again, his disciples were within, and Thomas with them, and Yeshua, then came Yeshua, the doors being shut, stood in the midst and said, Peace be unto you. And in Luke 24, 36 through 37 says, And as they thus spake, sorry, it's King James, Yeshua himself stood in the midst of them and saith unto them, Peace be unto you. But they were terrified and affrighted and supposed that they had seen a spirit.
Mm.
Terra
So
fried. Is that scorched earth? What is that?
I think so. It says terrified. You know, boys are from the South. You know that. They had
Everything's
to
fried.
know. We was terrified.
All right.
So anyway,
Yeah, it's definitely
Um,
some in the spirit realm. There's some cool stuff going on.
yeah,
I got a question, boys. Because I'm having a brain flip here. Okay. When he's like, all right, I wanna touch the hole in his hand, right? Was that before or after the ascension?
that was after. What do you mean the ascension?
Like after like after the 40, 50
Or
days or
or
whatever, when he finally
No,
went up.
he had to appear before his father. That's why he couldn't be touched because he
well,
had to appear. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
okay, so pre-ascension or pre yeah, because he says I haven't ascended to my father yet.
Yeah.
That's what he
Post
tells
resurrection, pre-ascension.
right?
Right.
So and then he walks through the wall
Well,
before
yeah.
ascension.
Yeah, he got his glorified
Yes.
body.
So he's got his glorified body. So okay, help. This is an interesting trail
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So he's touched, right?
Mhm.
So that implies flesh and blood.
And that implies physical nature, not flesh and
Yeah.
blood.
There
Yeah.
you go. There
Yeah.
you go.
Just like
'Cause
the angels had physical, they could eat and they could kill people and touch stuff, but they weren't.
We had to
They could
throw
then
that in
fly
there,
back
did
to
you?
heaven.
They can kill people. They can eat and kill people.
Right.
There you go. Okay, so yes, that's
Right.
what I wanted to
So
clarify because I didn't want somebody going down this road of because I had that thought pop in my head. It's like, okay, does that mean flesh and blood? And if so, Yeshua he ascended, and flesh and blood can't inherit the kingdom.
Right.
So, what we got here? So,
yeah.
okay.
So my current understanding is when Mary, I think it was, went to him and she was embracing him. He said, "Hey, you can't put hands on me, not because she's a woman, but because I haven't ascended to my father yet." And it was 8 days later, which would have been the coronation, or however you want to say it, of the high priest. So those 8 days of him, he has to present himself before the Father to be declared the high priest. And so after that, then he goes, and then wasn't it Philip that he said, "Hey, let me
Thomas.
Thomas, I'm sorry, yeah, let
So
me
he
touch
did
this."
ascend
Yeah,
prior to then,
he said, yeah,
or is he
something had
just
to happen. That's all I know.
presenting himself to the Father before he
Right. We'd
ascends?
have to go back and look at what he said. He may have said, "I have not ascended to the Father yet." We'd have to look that up. But regardless, he had to present himself one way or another to the Father
Mm-hmm.
for that role of Melchizedek of the high priest. So that was that 8 day period. Because after that, like you said, Thomas was like, "Hey," and here they are, the scars in the hand, which some people will say it was the wrist, maybe not necessarily the palm, but regardless, you
Yeah.
got to touch that in the pierced side and all that stuff. So
And I don't have like a overly differing opinion, but since we get to have one, I have one too. I think when she's hugging on him, essentially, I think he's kind of like, hey, I can sit with you for a little while, but I got a lot to get done before I ascend up to the Father. And once I get up there, I'm not coming back until my second coming. So I only have, excuse me, English, like 40, 50, 60 days, however long it was until, when he's like my final ascension of now all the earth stuff is done. Next time I come back, it's going to be king. I'm not coming back with I'm washing your feet. Though I love you and I might still do
Right.
that. I'm coming back
yeah,
in charge.
I still think though when you go back and look at the high priest during that time had to remain pure,
Oh, for sure.
or
Yeah.
had during that time. So I honestly think it was that. That's why I was saying, "Hey, you're messing. You kind of gonna mess things up here for me. Like we got all the way to this point."
Mm.
I come back. So let's don't mess it up. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
know you guys earlier were talking about the I know Kyle and both of you guys talking about the harpazo, the rapture.
Yeah.
And so when you start looking into can you teleport and then what was Yeshua doing, whether he was coming out of Sheol in the middle part for a little while, then back up in heaven, he essentially did what we would call rapture, right? He was caught up into the heaven, and it says two angels were there, right? They were there with his ascension. So they were also there whenever he came out of the grave when they rolled back the stone. So pretty interesting story. These two angels must have been mega important. They were probably his best friends
Well,
growing up.
I think when we get, this is my personal opinion, that whenever something like this takes place, just like when he goes through the 40 days and 40 nights of temptation in the wilderness from Hasatan,
Man, the
it
angels
says
ministered.
afterwards the angels or angels come and minister to him. And so I think that when he ascends back into his body and that whole thing that's taking place, whatever that looks like, I think the angels are there as protectors, watching over things. I think they're ministering unto him as he's coming back,
Mm,
all that stuff. So I think there's a reason they weren't just there to tell the ladies, "Hey, who you looking for?
right.
Right.
He ain't here. What you doing?
Right.
Yep.
See his clothes over there, all wrapped up neatly on the table? Yeah, he's not here."
Yeah. Freshly
So
pressed.
I think that was a possibility. They were there just to oversee and make sure everything,
Mm.
was going the way it should. But speaking of rapture, I do have some information here. Cutting information, fresh off the press here. So you guys know who Kirk Cameron is, right?
That's Mr. Left
Right.
Behind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
boy. Well, I just found out that he has a change in his understanding of the rapture.
Oh.
And
Oh, does
yeah,
he now?
yeah. So you guys know he was with Ray Comfort,
Mhm.
and I was looking that up. I was kind of curious how long this guy. I knew it had been a minute. So him and Ray Comfort,
Mr. Banana Man.
Mr.
Yep.
Banana Man, that's right. God bless him. I know he's out there doing what he feels like he needs to be doing. And I'm not saying he's not. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying he's definitely out there being active for the kingdom, whether correct or not. But anyway, it says that Kurt partnered with Ray Comfort for about 15 to 20 years, beginning in the late 1990s and continuing actively through the 2010s. So looks like overall, from what I could find here, it was from like 1990s until around 2018 in a consistent public partnership. So about 2 decades before focusing more on his own ministry. So anyway, I was some stuff has come up, and we'll get to the other stuff about Kirk Cameron. I've always thought it was Kirk Cameron's seems to be a straight up, just nice guy, family man. Never, don't have anything bad to say about him at all, other than there were some things theology wise. I was like,
Yeah.
or theological wise, I was like, I don't really line up with that, brother. But
Hey, I think we all used to though, right?
yeah,
It used to
absolutely,
make
Right.
yeah,
it
yeah,
used to make
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
You're like, thumbs up, let's go.
Yeah.
So, I was hearing some stuff. I was like, really? So I did a little quick search on it. It says Kirk Cameron no longer embraces the pre-tribulation rapture view popularized by the Left Behind series, which if you guys didn't know that, he starred in those. It was like a big series
Yeah.
back in the day, the Left Behind. Instead, he has shifted towards a more historic, conventional perspective that emphasizes perseverance through trials rather than escape from them. I was
Mhm.
like, huh. So it goes on
Hmm.
to say in my notes here says departure from Left Behind theology. Cameron has openly acknowledged that his views on the end times have changed significantly since portraying Buck Williams in the Left Behind movies. He no longer supports ideas that Christians will be secretly raptured before a 7-year tribulation. He has said that the Left Behind interpretation is not biblically solid. Wow, I had no idea he had switched so much from that,
Mhm.
and that the notion of believers being whisked away before suffering is relatively modern teaching, not rooted in historic Christian doctrine.
Yeah, it's very modern actually.
Canberra now stresses that Scripture calls believers to endure trials and persecution rather than expect escape. He sees the rapture as part of Christ's final return and resurrection, not a separate secret event. His current stance aligns more closely with post-tribulation or historic premillennialism. I don't know if I said it right, but
Millennialism.
yeah, well, yeah, where the
There's a lot
church
of letters.
remains present during tribulation, awaiting Christ's visible return to establish His kingdom. I was
Mm.
like, wow. I was like, well, of all people, I mean, look, we've all our thoughts and our beliefs, of course, have changed over the years, but I really thought that was one of those things where he was just in first gear and was gonna ride that sucker all the way out to the end, but, but good for him, what it tells me about him is that,
He's still
uh,
seeking.
he's
Yeah.
still seeking and he's still knocking and the Father's still speaking to him, and,
Well, and
I
being honest
mean
to the text,
yeah,
because it doesn't say a lot of the stuff that it's been prescribed to it.
Yep.
yeah, so
Yep.
that was pretty big. That was like,
Wow.
okay,
I wonder how
uh,
that goes for like some of the marketing and stuff like that. I wonder if he's like outside of his, obligation of, you must promote this book, movie, show, where he's like,
yeah.
I have a
Well,
different
when
stance
did those
personally.
movies come out? That was a minute, man. That's
It's
been what,
been a
at
minute.
least 20 plus years?
Yeah. I mean, what was with
So
bestsellers though? I think every one of those books, at
yeah,
least
I
like the
think
first
that
one, was
they rode that gravy train for a while. I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
you know,
they're still selling them.
are they really?
I just want to know how you have a part 2 and a part 3 to the Rapture. That's supposed to be it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it was the aftermath. Like what happens afterward?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
You
Now,
see,
because I
what
think
happened was,
he knew a little bit, then he got saved, and then he was like he was the next generation.
What was that movie that they did before Left Behind come out? There was one that was done in like the 70s that was
70s,
I think either 60s or 70s.
because there was like an Omega Code, and then there was a Megiddo. Those are the other two that were like in that same biblical conversation.
This is the one I'm thinking of. Like there was a lot of people that was like dressed very, in my opinion, 70s. But they were like they had the guillotines and everything.
The what?
Guillotines,
Okay.
guillotines, the Gila monsters.
All right.
They had
This movie's off the rails quick.
guillotines. Yeah. I don't know. I can't think of the name of it. If y'all can think of it, let me know down in the comments because
yeah,
I can't remember.
I don't know that one at all. I
It
just
had really intense, like overpowering music to it. Like it was like trying to do the horror theme to it
oh
behind.
yeah.
Yeah. It was rough to watch. It was difficult to watch, but
Yeah, what
Well,
was interesting is I want to say I've seen at least one or two of those movies, and I want to say one of them was actually kind of a powerful scene. It was when the Antichrist showed up at the UN.
mhm.
Is it that one?
Yeah, Nikolai
And
Carpathia.
yeah,
I've
and
seen
yeah.
then
them all.
basically takes a gun out, tells everyone what's going to happen,
Yep.
shoots the person, but then everyone's brainwashed into thinking that it all took different. The whole scene was different,
Hmm.
Mm.
and so some of it was kind of powerful. I was like, wow, it was
Oh, solid. Like, I mean,
yeah,
even if theologically it wasn't like all perfect, like those situations and environments are still going to take place. There's still going to
hmm
be two witnesses. There's still going to be calamity. There's still going to be worldwide terror and persecution and stuff like that. That stuff's gonna happen. It's just not going to be where all the Christians are gone. But
Right.
that's going to make it even more impactful because now you have this whole group of people that are trying to maintain and endure to the end. That's an even more compelling story. You're like,
Yeah.
no buying, selling, and trading. You're like, what are we supposed to eat? You're like, whatever you can find. Good luck, because you can't go to the grocery store. You know what I mean?
might want to start growing some tomatoes and do some canning.
Something.
Well, I truly believe that all of that the like pre-tribulation rapture doctrine, that line of thought, eschatology or whatever, I think that all of that is part of the deception, and I think a lot of that will play out in our face for the sake of deception.
Mm.
So I mean, either way, I think we're going to see a lot of that stuff, and there may be a lot of people disappear at some point for some reason, but
Yeah,
you know,
not because they were caught up by the Father.
Right.
right. Um, okay, I got something to share with y'all that's very pertinent to what we are discussing right now.
All right. Well, real quick before you do, I had
Uh-huh.
something I wanted to jump in with, just super
Okay.
quick.
Do it. Do
So
it.
you know how we were talking about the over popularization of like the left behind idea, even
Right.
in the full, I mean, pretty much the entire Christian world, right? I mean, I don't think there's almost anybody that believes outside of that. But whenever I started asking questions, and this was a while back, when they did another Left Behind series and Nicolas Cage was the main actor,
Oh,
and I said, now wait a tootin' minute, isn't he not the Christian guy with the salvation Jesus story? And then like he's playing so So then they want this movie for the average people. So they want everybody to be bought in on this. Like they want it to
Oh,
be
yeah.
completely just as normal as a fact as it can be. So then
Right.
that got me questioning, like, anytime they put it in Hollywood, if it's an independent film, you're like, oh, okay, somebody was trying to be super Christian, good job. But then you're like, wait, Hollywood sponsored it?
Yeah.
Something's up here. Yeah.
What they're gonna spend their good money to put Christian message out there?
Mhm.
Come on, let's be fair and honest here. So then that got me thinking, started researching and stuff. And then you go, like you said, Joe, like this is a more modern thing. They started finding which, I think, was it Darby or some of the more modern theologians, Schofield Bible and all that, where they were like,
Right.
we've introduced these ideas
Yep.
that wasn't the norm before. And
Yep.
and then they started printing it out. Then they got a hold of the theological seminaries, and then it became where it would just spread like wildfire, and it was no bringing it back. Until
Well,
recently, where people have started like actually making their own movements and saying we don't have to follow this just because that's the consensus.
right. Now, I want to say this real quick, too. I'm glad you brought that up because, and again, nothing against Ray Comfort, but some of his tactics for bringing people to salvation was kind of a fear tactic. Like, hey, if you died tonight, you know where you would go, yada, yada. And you think about the whole rapture thing was a great tool to get people into church.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of a sudden, if I put fear in you that, hey, guess what? We don't know when he's coming back. Could be today, could be tomorrow. So you might want to jump on board with this. And then you get people coming in. I hate to say it, but some of that too is to make the church grow. It's also a financial thing. So the more butts we can get in the seats, the more money we can make.
Right.
And so those tactics of scaring people, whether your intentions were good or not, I'm not a big fan of the turn and burn. That didn't
Turn
work for
or
me. I
burn.
wasn't when I started my walk, it wasn't because of that fear. It was just that I wanted to start serving my father, and
Right.
there wasn't, but anyway, that seems to be, if we can't win you over by our lifestyle or win you over by just the word of God, we're gonna use, the fear of you burning in hell for eternity.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
but anyway, just interesting stuff that where things get promoted within the church, and like you said, Jonathan, all of a sudden you got Hollywood promoting. It's like, and last time I checked, Nicolas Cage ain't exactly walking the narrow road. So nothing. I'm not trying to judge. I'm just saying
Yeah, he hasn't really put
ideas
himself out there like
are a bad thing. So,
Okay, I got two headlines I want to read.
two.
And
You're only allowed one.
oh
get
no, I
one.
gotta get two. I gotta get two.
All right.
And I want y'all's take on all of this. So
We're doing one at a time, or we're doing both at once?
I'm gonna read them back to back, but I'll
Back to
let
back,
you know.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the WHO has announced that Gates unveils blueprint for global digital ID, AI-driven surveillance, and lifelong vaccine tracking for everyone. That's Article 1. Article 2. Trump to announce transition to phase 2 of GAZA. I don't want to say that word on here. And yeah. Phase 2 of GAZA, Board of Peace plan by Christmas, complete with a 10-nation confederacy of international rulers.
10.
Uh-huh.
Okay. That's not significant at all.
What say you, boys? Now, by the way, if you're thinking like me, this is kind of maybe pointing towards a specific time in prophecy, potentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I learned about this article, there was a woman that was reading this stuff off, and she was absolutely giddy and overjoyed with excitement because of what we've been talking about already on this broadcast.
Oh, that's it.
She thinks she about to get sucked up in the air and not going to have to deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of people who are about to be excited about this and cheering it on
Mm.
Bruh, I'm just saying. Just saying. Anyway, okay. What you say?
Well, while she's thinking about being a spirit in the sky, I think the interesting part there is like, I mean, like obviously if you know your Bible, you know Revelation and whatnot, you know, you just said a whole bunch of stuff that's like red alert, you know, highlight, you know, obvious, point the finger right here. So,
Mhm.
you know, we know that area that you were speaking of geographically is right there on the water. And so, you know, you've got waterfront property to the Adriatic Mediterranean Sea area. And what's interesting is, you know, when you read about a great multitude of people, you know, or the beast will be coming out of the sea, and you know they're like, oh, a sea is a metaphor for,
Lots
you
of
know,
people. The
lots of
nations.
people, right? But then you're like, there's also like a lot of interesting stuff like location wise, geography wise. You know, there's going to be a certain mountain that's going to be split in two. That's only in one place. There's going to be a sea that comes back to life. That's only in one place. There's going to
Right.
be a whole group that says leave that current place and go to the hills, get out as fast as humanly possible, and be. You better hope it's not
Mhm.
pregnancy, or you better hope it's not the Sabbath because you got to go. All these events are very centrally located. And so as Kyle's reading through that, I'm like, all right, well, everything that's going on there is very centrally located. You know, like we're here, you know, obviously we're in the south of our country, way far away, right? And so it's interesting to see like why is our country having such a dramatic and over the top show of force and over the top impact on something that's happening way over there, right? And so, you know, I don't know if you guys saw those like those little pictures. I mean, our president put out like a whole video. I don't know what it was on his Truth Social or whatever, but like with golden statues of himself and like a bunch of really weird stuff on that waterfront property. That was like, I don't know what to think about it. I mean, I get the idea and I
Uh-huh.
understand settling and creating peace and maybe giving people houses and like, you know, making things better. But there's just been a one too many question marks where you're like, that might be an issue and that might be an issue and that might be an issue. That's a big problem. And, you know, when you start stacking them up, I think that's where you have to start like looking a little bit more like, oh, you're allowed a couple one-offs. You're allowed a couple like, oh, that's conspiracy theory or whatever. But you're like, that's a lot. 10 nations, and you're all trying to rule over a certain area where everything's going to happen in the end times. Everything. And you need 10 kings, and then you need three of them that are gone, and one of them's going to rise up, and all this stuff. It's all going to happen right there. It's, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I pulled that up, Kyle, because that made me think of Revelation. And I don't know if that's where you're going with any of this at all, but Revelation 17, 1 through 2 says, come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers of the earth have become drunk. It's Revelation 17, 12, 13 says, and the 10 horns that you saw are the 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour, together with the beast. These are of one mind, and they hand over their power and authority to the beast.
Nice.
So kind of interesting when you said about about the 10. I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So are we the beauty for the, and they're the beast?
yeah, I don't think it's gonna end like that, buddy.
I think our rose only has one more petal on it.
Yeah. So, and I know that this is a key theme sometimes. It says, Babylon the Great symbolizes a corrupt system, often interpreted as Rome in the first century, or more broadly, a worldly power, idolatry, false religion, and that seduces nations away from God. The kings of the earth, these rulers are depicted as fornicating with Babylon, meaning they align themselves with her wealth, luxury, and idolatry. It's not literal sexual immorality, but a metaphor for political and spiritual compromise, that's what I agree with that.
Mm.
Well,
It says the 10 kings with the beast, they represent a coalition of rulers who give their authority to the beast, the Antichrist system. Their unity is short lived, 1 hour, showing the temporary nature of their power compared to God's eternal kingdom. So, anyway.
okay. So with that said, I'll ask this question: what religion out there Any of them.
I plead the fifth.
What religion out? No, I'm not going there. But I like where your head's at. What
What you
religion?
drinking there?
What
Got some
religion?
juice in there? What?
What religion does not have Babylonian influence? I'll wait. So, and even atheists, for that matter, those are Babylonian practices. The way that they act, the things they say, the things that they do, the things that they don't care about, the things that they do care about. Right. So
there is no God because I'm God. We're all God.
Right. So
Little G's.
So whether you're looking at Islam or Buddhism or Hinduism or Judaism or Christianity or pick one. Tell me one that doesn't have influence in Babylonian ways. Everybody's wondering where this one world religion is going to come from. Do we have to have a one world religion, or just practices of that religion? I mean, it does say that just you have the sexual immorality, which going or mixing in, participating in things that's outside of the Word of God, right?
Right.
So outside of covenant. So,
which, to your point, I mean, it's so much more prevalent than we think. With the mixing, it's almost like embarrassing, and I think that's why a lot of like churches, a lot of pastors, a lot of people who are like really staunch in their faith and their belief like can't even address it, because it is like in your face, and you really don't have a choice but to just either admit it or brush it under the rug. Like in your modern Christianity, modern faith walk of, like you said, almost any religion, there's something mixed in from somebody else's religion or culture, and whether you want to believe it or not, oh well, go look at some of the holidays you practice, and then go read your Bible and see if you can see if the two match, right? If you've got bunny and eggs and trees and Santa Claus, and then go read your Bible all the way through, front to back, even the maps and the blank pages, and see if you find any of that in there, and you won't. And you're like, well, where did I get this from? Well, not from my Bible. So then how'd you find it? From outside cultures and religions, aka mixing. And it's in your face. It's all over the place. Like even dumb stuff we do where you're like, flick a coin in a fountain for good luck, and you're like, oh, where does the word luck come from? Well, the root word's Lucifer. You're like, oh, great, thanks. Appreciate that. Like good luck. You're like, oh, I don't want that.
When has it ever been a good thing to throw money away, right?
It's like good luck by losing money. Yeah, that's a sound investment, advice. Throw your money in the water. But and then somebody goes and picks all that money up later, and they made money. So
yeah.
But it's just there's so much mixing, I think, that we've allowed it and just said it's okay, or because it's like culturally, like in America we call it like the melting pot, right? So it's like, hey, one night you can have Mexican, the next night you can have Asian, the next night you can have a steak, and that's good because you have all these outside influences. But with your faith, with the way, the truth, and the life, and there's no way to the Father except through me, that's very singular. There is no other secondary options. There's no bring the world into that conversation. He's like, no, this, like you said, it's covenant. It's me, you, and this book, nothing else. Right. So that's the one area where we do have to be somewhat homogenous. We don't get choices in what we do and how we live. We don't have choices in, well, I'm going to be in this type of camp and I'm going to be in this type of camp. He's like, no, there's Israel camp, and you're either inside of it or you're outside of it.
Right.
Your choice. There wasn't like, well, you're a newly saved camp, and well, you're a little more eccentric camp. Well, you prefer praise music camp. Well, you really like to cast out demons camp. It's like, no, the camp, and you either get in line or you don't belong. So yeah, it's a scary thing to like actually sober-mindedly look at your own self in the mirror, like James says, and not turn around and forget who you are because you're doing world practices and say, do I have nothing of the world? I don't think any of us can soberly say yes to that question.
Yeah, and that's scary. That's really scary.
Yep. Yeah, and I wanted to say this too, that when we hear I don't take the for 1 hour literally, that it's just for 1 hour. I just look at it as a temporary authority that's taking place, for a short period of time. Cool thing though is when you go back to Revelation, Revelation 17:14 says they will make war on the Lamb, but he will conquer them. So there's a lot of different thoughts on that, and you know, it just takes me back to President Reagan when he talked about in multiple speeches talked about how the world would come together as one if there was an alien threat. That would be the one thing that would draw everyone together to fight. Yeah, I've heard this from multiple sources that that thought process is when the kingdom comes that they're going to wage war against it, but make it look like it's an alien invasion.
Mm.
Um,
Yep.
and so and it's just interesting because when you look at all over the world, what is the space program or the space thing called again?
Space station.
No, the one where it's like this whole nother military that's assigned for basically
Oh, Space
black.
Force.
Is it Space Force is what it's called?
That's
for
what
for the
for America.
U.S.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So that's what
That's our
they were
military
talking
branch.
about because of where they are strategically placed around the world, that they're in a position of that when you see the return of Messiah, they're gonna be like, oh, look, it's an alien and it's this invasion, and everybody's gonna be like, oh, we gotta fight and destroy, and people will be, drawn to that. And so maybe that would be able to pull the nations together. I don't know. It's a thought that's out there, but it does make me wonder how they were going to wage war against the Lamb. So
All right. So
go
real
ahead,
quick,
Jonathan.
what is so we know that in Israel they have the Iron Dome, right?
Hmm.
And it helps them protect from missiles and bombs and stuff. What is Trump's current plan for protecting the United States called?
I don't know. What is it?
Never heard of it?
Is it
No.
the Gold Dome or something like that?
Yes, the Golden Dome.
Yeah.
So two things in that phrase is very interesting to
Mm,
me. One, the dome.
Dome.
right, right.
Why would you call it
Hmm.
that?
Hmm.
Interesting
Yeah.
choice. Not
Yeah.
the Golden Globe, right?
I
Is
like gold.
it? and then gold. What's the color of the object that's going to be coming out of the sky that is open like a scroll?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
for giggles and kicks.
You know what? Just that's another little conspiracy trail here. What about Trump is known for being like the gold guy, right? Like,
Hmm.
is he that head of gold?
How about one even better? In the end times, the Trump will sound. The final
Mm-hmm.
Trump.
Yeah,
Let's say the last Trump.
there's all kind of trails that we can go down
Yeah.
on that one. But
Yeah.
all
I'm
right, I
not
got
saying anything. I'm not
Oh, no.
suggesting anybody or anything. Just interesting word correlation.
If we go too
Right.
much further down this, we're gonna have to pull in Trey Smith to come on here with us and take us down that trail. So
Right, yeah, gotta hit the TV, yeah.
oh
behind
dude, I can tell you how many times I was like waiting for that thing to crack or
I
fall.
know. For years, I've been like, dude, he's gonna break that TV.
Hey,
Like,
whatever TV he bought, we need to invest in because that TV is
Yeah, I
solid.
know.
right.
Buy Samsung now.
Okay, I got to bring this up. So you brought up the idea of he will
1
have
hour.
the 1 hour. Yeah, he'll have power for 1 hour or whatever, authority for 1 hour, however it's phrased.
That's how long it is to develop film. That's why.
Sir.
Sorry, go ahead.
So, I have a thought. I think that there's a correlation between that and what Yeshua says when he's in the garden. When he's praying and he comes to the men and he says, could you not wait with me 1 hour? I think that there's potentially something to that 1 hour as far as a time frame, maybe not specifically 1 hour, maybe a prophetic 1 hour type thing potentially, right? But I think what that has more to do with, for what I see anyway, I think it has more to do with the fact that while you're supposed to be on guard, which, by the way, did Jesus really need them to guard him? I mean, come on, really, right? And he was going to give himself up anyway. Did he need them to guard him? No. The point is, they were supposed to be on guard, and they were asleep. So I think that there's something a lot more to that for us when we read what Yeshua's words were to the disciples, and then we pull in the revelation, the 1 hour. It's, hey, you better not be asleep during this time. You better be on guard. So that's a connection I made with that. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, and then speaking to that hour, so I was thinking about it too. Whenever in John chapter 2, so early on in the story, he's there with his mom. And she's like, "Hey, we're running out of wine. What are you gonna do?" He
My
says,
hour's not come.
my
Mhm.
hour has not yet come. So it's very interesting to see like what's up with this hour. Now we know that there literally was like not an hour there, right? Because he then ministered for like 3+ years after that.
Right. But he was
So-
saying starting point.
Right.
Yeah.
So then he's like, yeah, my hour. So like a start of a time period. It just very interesting to see how that plays out, where it's like, I don't think they're talking about a literal 60 minutes, but then yet
Mhm.
it still keeps using that language. So it means like imminent or soon or quick, but it doesn't mean like 60 minutes.
Yeah,
Or
I
maybe it
would be
does, I don't know.
curious to know if you could break that down. I mean, I'm sure you could, but it says a day is as 1,000 years, 1,000 years as a day.
I was
If
thinking
you
that
were to
too,
actually
doing
take
some
an
math.
hour and then do the math in that to see if how many, how that would break down, that would be interesting. But
I already have.
whoa.
Yeah.
What's the answer? Give me the
All
But
right,
answer.
that'll
Jonathan. Jonathan, you're gonna have to be the person to go
Give
ahead.
me the answer right now.
that might have to be for another time because that's going to open up some big rabbit holes.
Oh no.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Maybe we
Like-
talk about that next time.
There you go.
There you go.
Hmm.